Can I ask you a question? They're negotiating in secret. Excuse me. They're negotiating in secret again. What kind of government is this? The health care negotiations, the discussion about the bill, thousands of pages long, they pass it. We never get to see it. Or they put it out so late in the process that we don't actually get to study it. I mean, what is this? The budget negotiations, which also turn out badly, negotiated in secret. They come back with $200 million in cuts. He claims, Boehner, it was $30 billion. $30 billion, $200 million was supposed to be $100 billion. Then $80 billion. Then $61 billion. All these secret negotiations all the time. What the hell for? This is supposed to be a constitutional republic. We're not subjects. We're citizens. And so we have to guess. We have to read tea leaves now. Everybody coming out of these meetings smiling. Well, it went well. I can't say this. The hell? What do you mean you can't say this or that? Tell us exactly what's being discussed. Now, here we have the Hill newspaper. Boehner said that comprehensive tax reform is under discussion. But he reiterated the Republicans' blanket opposition to tax increases. So I scratched my head. What the hell does that mean? Shouldn't the only thing up for discussion be slashing spending? We're talking about the so-called debt ceiling. Now, I don't trust Obama at all, and to be honest with you, I have very little trust with Boehner because he always comes out of these things a loser. His comments, everything's on the table except raising taxes, followed reports that Obama is seeking a bigger debt deal than previously discussed, which would include major changes to entitlement programs in the tax code, producing savings of $4 trillion over 10 to 12 years. I spent a long time yesterday going over this fraud. 10 to 12 years? Obama can't hold a future Congress to that, as I explained. And not only that, they're not going to cut them over 10 to 12 years. That is spending. Now, according to sources in the GOP conference meeting, Boehner seemed optimistic that a deal could be struck in the near future. The speakers communicating that there is a possibility that something big could happen soon. I don't know, whenever I hear about something big happening soon and Obama being happy, it makes me extremely nervous that Boehner for the third time will have been taken to the cleaners. And let us be clear, he's been taken there twice before now. The New York Times reported yesterday that Boehner has signaled a willingness to accept up to $1 trillion in new revenues as part of a broad agreement. I don't even know what that means. $1 trillion is a lot of money. They're going to say they cut $500 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse? What's that all about? Are they going to tinker with the entitlement programs, not really fundamentally altering them, and then pretend that somehow that's made a big difference? If they do that, then they've rejected Paul Ryan's Medicare and Medicaid proposals, which they just voted on and approved. Now, we had secret discussions on health care, and it's a disaster. We've had secret discussions on their budget discussion 6, 7, 8 months ago. That was a disaster. Remember that? Can't close down the government. All those non-essential workers suddenly were essential. Now they're discussing something that's enormously important, your future, as with the others. But here we're talking about what kind of society are we going to look like. And they had a very good meeting today. Everybody seems to be really happy. They have a new spring in their step. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, if they're all so happy in Washington, what does that mean for the rest of us? Really? The point is to win on these issues, I think. Then I read this in the Hill newspaper, and it causes me further angst. National security spending could be cut as much as $700 billion, $600 to $700 billion. And a deal to raise the debt limit, defense sources said. That's almost twice as much as Obama originally proposed. The Red Chinese are on the rise. They're building aircraft carriers, MIRV missiles. They're definitely on the move. It's easy to cut defense. It's not about redistributing wealth. The vast majority of the American people don't even come in touch with the Defense Department, other than seeing a soldier from time to time. I mean, if you look at our force structure, has already been slashed. And once they reduce our involvement in these various wars, then what? We're going to destroy the infrastructure altogether? We're going to need another Reagan to build it all back up? The problem, ladies and gentlemen, is a percentage of the budget and the massive growth in the budget that has occurred under this president isn't defense. It's all the rest of it. So, yes, I am very concerned about these little leaks coming out of the secret discussions. I mean, this is the United States of America. What are secret discussions on health care? Secret discussions on budgets? Secret discussions on debt ceilings? What is this? What is this? I'm just appalled. And the Republicans go along with this kind of behavior? They participate in it. They're one of the parties. Now, I spent a lot of time yesterday, and I'm not going to go over old territory here, getting into the specifics about how we will not default on the debt. Certainly not in the midterm. And how Obama has all kinds of choices he can make, and he'll probably make choices if it comes to that are harmful. But I think Boehner, I think he's weak. I think that's the problem. I hope McConnell's not. I guess we're going to find out soon enough, aren't we? Let me try this a different way. You Republicans in Congress, you are in the branch of government that determines how much the nation spends and borrows, how much the people are taxed, and the overall financial condition of the nation. President does not call the shots, as some have said today. No, he doesn't. He's the executive branch. You determine how much we spend. The spending bills, the taxing bills, they come from you. The president has no power to dictate anything to you about any of this. Period. Obama is the head of the executive branch. He executes. You legislate. And when it comes to the nation's finances, he actually has no say but what you tell him to do. This is true. Stop negotiating revenues. Take the word revenue out of your lexicon of words right now. You tell the President of the United States, as the other branch, cut spending. You tell him to cut the servicing of the debt, pay that first, which he has to do anyway, as we discussed under Section 4 of the 14th Amendment. You order him to use what is left to prioritize the rest of the spending on the budget. He's trying to demand that you pass a spending bill and increase the money he has, increase money for spending that he's already spent. But he doesn't want it to pay down the debt since you already have the money to pay down the debt. If you vote to increase the debt ceiling without slashing the budget, without capping spending, and without at least a vote on a constitutional amendment, then you are voting to fund Obama's agenda. Let me be very clear about this, ladies and gentlemen, so you understand the position the Republicans are in and not the spin from them. This vote to raise the debt ceiling is not a vote about the debt. It's a vote on whether or not the Republicans vote to pay for what Obama has already spent. Now, that's not to say some of these programs haven't been in place before Obama. Many of them have. But they will also be voting for all the slop and crap and you know what that he and Pelosi and Reid put in place over the last 30 months or so. That's why Obama wants this debt ceiling raised. That's why Reid and Pelosi want the debt ceiling increased. Nothing to do with the debt. Everything to do with funding what they've been doing. You know, the truth is, I was thinking about this yesterday during the show. I mentioned it briefly and thought about it overnight. The Republicans don't need to negotiate at all. You know, when McConnell invited Obama to come to the Senate to have a discussion, when Obama blew him off and went to a fundraiser in Pennsylvania, in my humble opinion, what McConnell should have done is said, okay, then we're not talking. We're not talking. Fine. That ceiling comes August 2nd, whatever you guys are pretending the date is. You guys figure it out because we're not voting to raise it. Honestly, I don't understand the gutlessness. It's so appalling to me that we have Republicans in a position to actually take huge steps to save this society, and they're already mired down in negotiations in secret. Oh, I hope they turn out well. And I hope we get to figure out what they're doing at some point, since it does affect you and me and our children and grandchildren. But this whole process, with all the secret discussions and negotiations, all this stuff should be out in the open. All this stuff should be going through congressional committees. All this stuff should have our input, so you can call your member of Congress. That's what we mean by a representative republic. We didn't have a chance on the health care bill. We didn't have a chance on the budget. And apparently we don't have a chance now because none of us know what they're exactly talking about except us. whatever they're doing is going to affect us. This is no way to run a constitutional republic, period.